If this transmission reaches anyone at all, burn the coordinates and forget we ever spoke. This isn't a distress call. It's a warning. The kind that costs more than lives. It costs memory, soul identity. This is Commander Lyle Kane, Lunar Expedition Team EOS 9. I led the mission. I signed the manifest. I believed the science. God help me, I even smiled when we landed. I thought I was prepared. I wasn't. 3 days ago, we touched down on the dark side of the moon, just beyond the Terminator line, to investigate a signal. Not a natural one. This was intentional, deliberate, transmitting from beneath the surface with mathematical precision. Prime number pulses nested in golden ratio harmonics. Human radio telescopes had registered it months back, a curiosity until it started shifting frequencies, compensating for Doppler drift as if it knew we were listening. And then 2 weeks ago it spoke back, not in words, but in a pattern, a recursive pulse that mirrored our own inquiry probe. A call and response between species, one might say, if you were feeling poetic. I was not. Neither were the others. There were 5 of us on the ground team. Dr. Nadia El-Rashid, xenolinguist, tenured at the New Alexandria Institute. Quiet, exacting, brilliant. The kind of mind that made most men nervous, not because she was arrogant, but because she wasn't. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, people shut up and took notes. Lieutenant Briggs, tech specialist. No first name, just Briggs like a habit he couldn't shake. He was all wires, tattoos, and sarcasm, with a laugh like gravel and a computer console duct taped to his wrist at all times. Paranoid, sure, but in this field, paranoia is a survival trait. Reyes, our pilot, former Martian orbital defense. Lanky, stone-faced, didn't blink unless prompted. Said he didn't believe in ghosts, then crossed himself every time the comms glitched. And Dr. Vickers, the biologist. Soft-spoken, warm in a way none of the rest of us were. He'd brought a bonsai tree in a pressurized dome. Said it helped him feel like the Earth hadn't forgotten him. We established base in Artemis 13, one of the old lunar research stations from the early 2100s, long since decommissioned, half buried in regolith. Atmospheric seals held, just barely. Dust covered everything like a fine white mold. Equipment blinked awake reluctantly. The station groaned when we moved through it, as if it remembered being abandoned and didn't quite trust our return. But the signal was stronger here. Directly beneath the station, actually, it took Briggs less than a day to confirm the source was coming from 130 meters underground, beneath solid basalt, no fissures, no caverns, no drill records from past missions. The moon's core isn't supposed to resonate like that, isn't supposed to house anything beyond rock and regret. But something was definitely pulsing down there. What if it's a deep-buried transmitter? Vickers had asked, hopeful. Lost probe. Ancient tech. Some failed mission no one logged. No probe hums in Fibonacci patterns. Nadia replied without looking up. We argued about what to do next. The plan was simple. Observe, analyze, report. We had no orders to dig. But the signal wasn't just passive. It was adaptive. When Briggs beamed back a low-frequency test echo, it mimicked the echo but inverted the phase, returning something that looked like a sonar map of us inside the station. Something down, there's listening, Briggs whispered that night. Worse, it's learning. On the second day, the tremor hit. Just a twitch in the moon's crust. Barely enough to knock a mug off a shelf. But it had directionality, like something had shifted under us. Like something had cracked open a door. That's when Reyes found the tunnel. It wasn't natural. At first we thought it was an impact fracture, some collapsed lava tube or tectonic scar, but the edges were smooth. Too smooth, polished like obsidian, curving down in a slow spiral. As if it had been carved by something that didn't use hands or tools, but thought in angles and harmony. We lowered a probe. 90 meters in, the signal spiked. At 100, the probe blinked out, just vanished from telemetry like it had been swallowed. Not destroyed, not jammed, just removed. We argued again. Stronger this time. Vickers wanted to send in drones. Reyes refused to go near the tunnel without backup. Briggs swore something was moving in the shadows down there. Nadia said nothing, just stared at the signal logs, her brow furrowed in a way I'd never seen. Eventually, it was me who gave the order. We geared up, suits sealed, helmets on, no oxygen risk. The tunnel's air was sterile, inert, trace nitrogen and helium. No bacteria, no dust, just cold, perfect stillness. I remember the silence most of all. There's a kind of silence you expect in space, vacuum quiet, white noise. This was different. This was listening silence, like we were walking into the lungs of something ancient, and it was holding its breath. We descended in single file, lights on full beam. The tunnel went down at a perfect 11-degree angle, curving gently, endlessly. The walls were black stone, but it wasn't stone. It looked like stone. It felt like skin, cold skin. At 60 meters, the temperature rose by 3 degrees. At 80, our radios picked up faint static, like whispers too soft to shape. At 100, we found the doorway. A perfect arch, 3 meters high, rimmed with lines that shimmered as we approached. They weren't carvings. They were veins, luminous, pulsing slowly like a sleeping heartbeat. We stopped. Nobody said it, but we all felt it, the threshold. The point where reality thinned. Reyes muttered a prayer. Vickers touched the arch. Briggs scanned it with a handheld sensor and cursed. The readings made no sense. Zero mass. Infinite impedance. Temperature. Null. Something's wrong with the scanner, he said. But it wasn't the scanner. Because when Nadia stepped closer, the doorway breathed. I saw it. A slow, inward pull of air. Not strong. Not loud. But unmistakable. The entire arch seemed to flex, just once, like a lung drawing in the scent of prey. That's when we should have turned back. But she spoke. Softly, a word none of us recognized. And the arch opened. Not physically. The space beyond it shifted. Not by light or sound, but by meaning. It was blackness, but the kind of blackness that isn't empty. It was crowded, like looking into the memories of 1,000 dead suns. A space made of ideas rather than atoms. We hesitated. Then we stepped through, and the world changed. I can't describe it well. Not because I don't remember, but because memory itself doesn't want to hold it. The chamber beyond was enormous, too large to fit inside the moon. And yet there we were inside it. Curved walls, fractal designs, colors that hurt the eye, structures that shifted when not looked at directly. The floor was a mosaic of bones. Not human, not animal. Bones shaped like music, spiraled and interlocked, forming equations in ivory. Nadia whispered, "It's a language." "Bones?" I asked. "No." The pattern. It's an instruction, or a warning. Briggs paced the edge. "This isn't a lab. This is a temple." Reyes, silent until then, spoke up. "No, it's a prison." Then came the noise. Low, subsonic, felt more than heard. A vibration in the teeth, in the chest, in the spaces between thoughts. It wasn't hostile, but it was aware. Something beneath the chamber moved. A shift in gravity. A slow rotation, like a sleeping creature rolling in its bed. We were in a surface scan. Beneath the chamber floor was a sphere. Perfect, hollow, pulsing with energy we couldn't measure. Not nuclear, not kinetic, something older. We didn't understand it. Not then, but Nadia kept translating, murmuring pieces aloud as she paced the bone floor. It waited when the stars were born. It remembers the ones who made it. It dreams until the gates are aligned. None of it made sense. Until the wall began to change. Not all at once. A shimmer at first, like heat over metal. Then it peeled open, seamless, silent, revealing a corridor that hadn't been there before. Briggs swore and backed away. "I didn't do anything," he said. "I didn't touch it." Nadia stood very still. "It's responding to us." "To what?" I asked. "To our pattern, our thoughts, our fear." The chamber grew colder. Reyes turned, flicking his helmet light across the chamber. "There were 5 of us when we came down," he said quietly. "Still are," I said, confused. He shook his head. "No, there are 6 shadows." We all looked. He was right. On the chamber wall, 6 shadows danced in the light. But only 5 of us stood there. Vickers was the first to panic. He stumbled back, tripped over a spiral femur, and dropped his biosensor. It shattered, and then the 6th shadow moved. Not with us. Not mimicking. It turned its head. Toward me. I fired my light directly at it. Nothing. But I felt it. Like someone whispering in my eardrum. A voice that wasn't a voice. Breathing syllables not meant for air. I don't remember the words. I remember the feelings, cold, wet, ancient grief, and hunger. We retreated. Fast. Back through the arch. The tunnel was unchanged. But the angles were off now. Wrong. Too long. Too narrow. We climbed in silence. At the surface, the station greeted us like a tomb. No one spoke for a long time. That was 12 hours ago. Now, Briggs is disassembling the radios. He says they're talking back. Vickers won't leave the corner of the lab. Says he hears footsteps beneath his skin. Reyes watches the door with a loaded sidearm, daring it to open. Nadia hasn't stopped writing. Not on her tablet. On the walls. With her fingertips. Symbols that shift when I blink. And me? I'm recording this. Because I think we didn't come down into the labyrinth. I think it came up into us. If this transmission reaches you, if you're even real, do not send a recovery team. Seal the moon. Burn this site from the stars. Because whatever sleeps down there has started awake. And it remembers the sound of your voice. There's something wrong with the moon. It's not the cratered face or the silence. We expected that. We trained for that. But what no one prepared for was the feeling, like the moon itself is aware. And it's waiting for something. I haven't slept. None of us have, really. Not since we came back up from the chamber. The others lie still, but their eyes twitch beneath closed lids, as if watching things we can't see. Briggs told me he sees static even when his eyes are shut, like a screen's on in the dark, broadcasting shapes that twitch. Nadia doesn't sleep at all anymore. She sits by the airlock, cross-legged with her pad in her lap, scribbling furiously. The symbols she's writing aren't from any known language. Not human, not Martian, not even theoretical. She said they come to her when she blinks. She sees them between frames, she said, in the motion blur of thought. The weirdest part? They pulse. I checked the hallway this morning. She'd etched hundreds of them along the wall. I passed by slowly, light sweeping over the symbols. The moment my shadow hit them, they shimmered. Not glow in the dark, not bioluminescent. They responded, like they recognized me. She caught me staring. They're instructions, she said calmly. Or maybe prayers. To who? To whatever left the door open. She wasn't joking. The signals changed. We have new data. Or, rather, the same data, repeating. Loops within loops. The waveforms no longer broadcast. Now they echo. But not our transmissions. They echo our movements. Every step we take near the site, every spoken word, it all feeds into the signal. Like the labyrinth is building a model of us. Studying us. No, mirroring us. Briggs brought it up first. There's feedback, he said, rubbing his temple. Temporal. Microseconds. But it's there. We walk. It echoes. I breathe. It breathes. It's mimicking us. I asked. He shook his head. No, that'd be too simple. It's preempting us. A beat before. Like it knows we're going to act and reflects it before we do. We ran tests. Simple stuff. Briggs raised his left hand. The signal spike came before he moved. Reyes laughed, but it was a hollow sound. What are you saying? He asked. It's reading us. Briggs looked pale. No, I think it's remembering us. Then came a second door. It wasn't there yesterday. The original passage remained sealed, still breathing, still pulsing faintly like a massive, sleeping lung. But now a new arch had formed 20 meters away, its frame rougher, imperfect, like a sculptor's first draft. Inside, not stairs, a room, a cube. We sent a drone first this time. We weren't idiots. The cube inside floated midair, perfectly centered, matte black, not reflective. And it sang. Only Nadia could hear it first. She walked straight toward the monitor feed, transfixed. It's not sound, she whispered. It's thought. It's broadcasting in emotional keys. Frequencies of feeling. I ordered her back. She didn't argue, but her fingers kept moving, writing more symbols. Faster now. Then Vickers started acting strange. He'd been the quiet one, the soft one. His calmness used to be grounding. Now it was eerie. He began speaking in third person. Not constantly, just occasionally. He won't go down again, he said at breakfast, spoon hovering midair. Who won't? I asked. He stared, unblinking. The one who wore this face. He knew too much. I tried to dismiss it. Stress, sleep deprivation, isolation does weird things. But Vickers wasn't the only one fraying. Reyes kept checking his oxygen gauge, even when indoors. There's too much air, he muttered once. It's too clean. Doesn't taste right. Briggs had stopped sleeping entirely. He tore open every panel in Artemis, 13, convinced the circuitry was mutating. He claimed the wires were rearranging themselves. He ripped out a diagnostic cable and threw it at my feet. It spelled my name, he hissed. The wires, twisted into letters. It hadn't, but I didn't argue. I was having dreams, too. Not dreams. Memories. Places I'd never been. People I'd never met. A long corridor of glistening stone, filled with mirrors that didn't reflect me. An ocean of glass. A machine the size of a city, breathing in the dark. One dream ended with Nadia turning to me, eyes bleeding static. You were never supposed to remember, she said. You're the leak. The next day, she found another passage. Not a door this time, a hatch. Round, sealed, half buried under the lunar crust behind the original archway. We hadn't noticed it before because it wasn't there before. It was hot to the touch. Not warm, hot, but not from energy. From friction, like it had just landed. We debated what to do. For hours. The signal surged whenever someone got near. It pulsed differently for each of us. For Nadia, it chirped in threes. For Briggs, it pulsed long, short, long. For Vickers, it went silent. I had Reyes record the patterns. Then something strange happened. When we reversed the audio playback of Nadia's signal, the waveform created her voice. It wasn't clear. It was warped, corrupted, but unmistakable. It said, "You brought us back. You made the gate." Nadia denied saying it, but her face said otherwise. I confronted her later. "You know more than you're saying." "I know what I'm allowed to remember," she said. "What does that mean?" "It means none of this is new. Not to me. Not to you either, Commander." That night, Briggs sealed himself in the comms bay and wouldn't answer his mic. We found him the next morning, curled under the desk, scribbling inside his own helmet with a stylus, writing the same phrase over and over. There is no outside. There is only recursion. We sedated him. But while I was securing the log files, I found something that made my blood run cold. A folder named EOS 1, buried deep, dated 6 months before our launch. There is no EOS 1. Ours was the first. Except it wasn't. The logs were corrupted, fragmented, but the voices were familiar. Mine, Reyes, Nadia, even Briggs. Same names, same crew, different timestamps, different outcomes. In one log, Vickers screamed before vanishing mid-sentence. In another, Briggs begged not to be relooped. And in the final intact file, my own voice whispered, "Don't trust the stars. They are echoes." I deleted nothing. I backed everything up. I played the last recording for Nadia. She didn't react. Instead, she placed her palm on the airlock wall and closed her eyes. "This isn't a place," she said. "It's a function." A function of what? Correction. What are we correcting? Entropy. Mistakes. Leaks in the pattern. I didn't understand. Not really. But I remembered something from the chamber. That sick shadow. That moment of misalignment. As if reality stuttered. "We're not supposed to be here," I said. "No," she agreed. "We're supposed to be remembered." Later that day, the hatch opened. No warning. No signal. Just a slow hiss and then blackness. We sent in a drone. It never returned. But the signal spiked violently. Almost like a scream. Briggs, despite sedation, began convulsing. Nadia dropped her stylus and bled from one nostril. Reyes passed out cold. And I saw something, just for a second, on the drone feed. A figure, standing inside the hatch. Not humanoid. Tall. Elongated. But with my face. My exact expression. My suit. It turned toward the camera and smiled. The feed cut. When I turned to Nadia, she was staring at me with open horror. "You saw it too?" I said. She nodded. "The recursion has begun." "What the hell does that mean?" She didn't answer. She walked into her quarters, shut the door, and hasn't come out. That was 6 hours ago. The rest of us sit in silence. The moon hums around us, like a beast learning its name. The signal still echoes, growing stronger. There is no response from Earth. Not that I expected one. The stars outside the viewport aren't in the right positions anymore. I would know. I studied them all my life. And they've shifted, slightly, but just enough. I think we passed through something, or something passed through us. Maybe the hatch was never for entering. Maybe it was for unleashing. Vickers speaks again, but it's not his voice anymore. He talks in echoes, always delayed, always off. He says we were never real to begin with. Just trials, prototypes. I want to dismiss it, but when I listen to my own recordings, this one included, my voice isn't quite right. The cadence, the rhythm, like something wearing my skin is trying too hard to sound like me. Maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not meant to return. Maybe we're meant to spread. Whatever we found down, there is an ancient. It's recursive. It's building, testing, correcting, and now it's awake. I don't know what the others will become. I only know what I've already seen. Tomorrow, I'll go back through the hatch. Alone if I must. Not for answers, but because I think it's the only way this ends. The signal has changed again. It now says one thing, clearly, in every language we've ever known. Do you remember being born? God help me, I think I do. I don't think we're on the moon anymore. Not completely. Something has shifted. A tilt in reality. Like we're wedged between two layers of existence, and neither side wants us. Every surface in Artemis, 13 now, reflects a slightly different angle than it should. You look into a monitor and see yourself a second too late. Your reflection grins when you don't. The corridors are 10 steps longer than they were yesterday. My bunk, which used to smell faintly of old fabric and aluminum, now reeks of wet iron. Vickers doesn't speak English anymore, or any language I know. He mutters in sharp, guttural tones that echo too clearly in a sealed room. Nadia says the language is structurally intelligent. Each sound builds on the last, forming recursive ideas rather than words. It's not speech, she told me this morning. It's a command sequence. He's not responding to sedation anymore. Briggs hasn't left the comms bay. He doesn't answer when I speak to him. He just stares at the wall, tracing shapes with his fingers, eyes twitching with microbursts like a corrupted security feed. I found a half-torn note under his bunk. We weren't first. We aren't last. The Labyrinth doesn't test life. It tests memory. I have no idea what it means. But I believe it. I haven't gone back to the hatch. Not yet. I should have. But after what I saw on the drone feed, I can't trust what's on the other side. Not until I understand what we're really inside of. I thought the Labyrinth was a structure. It's not. It's a process. It's rewriting us. Reyes disappeared 3 hours ago. Just gone. I turned my back for a second, and he was no longer in the module. No open doors. No sound. His gear remained neatly stacked beside the airlock, folded. His boots were warm, like he just stepped out of them. The worst part? A few minutes later, I saw him outside, standing at the edge of the crater, helmet off, smiling up at the black sky. You shouldn't be able to survive more than a second out there. No pressure, no oxygen, but he stood perfectly still, watching the stars flicker. I tried to call out. He looked straight at the camera, raised one hand slowly, and traced a spiral over his heart. The same spiral carved into the chamber walls below. Then the feed cut. I sent a rover out to check. No one was there, just footprints in the dust, leading in a perfect circle around the station, repeating endlessly. I followed them once. I shouldn't have. After the 5th loop, the station was gone. I turned around, and it was just not there. I screamed, and then I blinked. Suddenly, I was back inside, sitting at the mess table, an untouched cup of coffee in my hand, still hot. Nadia looked at me and said, "You looped." I didn't ask how she knew. She handed me a notebook, one I didn't recognize. The pages were filled with my handwriting. Only they weren't journal entries. They were apologies. Dozens of them, all addressed to different names I didn't recognize. All ending the same way. I tried to fix it. I went back through. I think I brought it out with me. The walls are thinner now. I can feel it. There's a low hum beneath my feet, like distant machinery cycling endlessly. And the air has a taste, faintly sweet, like spoiled sugar. Nadia doesn't sleep. She claims she hasn't since we first entered the chamber. Not really. It watches dreams, she says. The gate feeds on identity. Sleep is how it maps the soul. She's changed too. Her eyes are different. Not physically, but when she looks at you, it's like she's reading through you, peering into some secret space behind your thoughts. She speaks less now, but when she does, the words fall out like puzzle pieces clicking into place. She told me today that she remembers being here before. Not on this mission, not in this body, but she remembers the walls, the spiral paths, the cube that sings in silence. It builds minds, she said, copies them, refines them. The original version of me didn't survive the first trial. I'm version 5. And me? I asked. She didn't answer. Briggs finally spoke this afternoon. He whispered, I found the core. His eyes were glassy, his voice barely audible. It's not a place. It's a pressure. I pressed him. Where? How? He just kept saying, it's beneath the breath of time, below the rhythm of death. He looked me dead in the eye and said, you're the leak now. And then he bit off the tip of his own finger and drew a spiral on the floor in blood. We restrained him. He's unconscious again, but the cut isn't bleeding anymore. It sealed too fast, too cleanly. I checked the infirmary logs. This is the 6th time I've recorded this event. Each time the details shift slightly. Sometimes it's Reyes who draws the spiral. Once it was me. The timestamps contradict each other. Some from yesterday, some from next week. I think time doesn't pass here. It unfolds. It rearranges. Nadia believes we're inside a recursive construct, a machine that loops cause and effect until the sequence produces the right version, the right result. What's the result? I asked. She looked at me blankly. To build something that remembers it's a lie, she said. We went back down. Not all of us. Just me and her. The tunnel was different this time. The descent was shorter. The angle's wrong. And there were voices. Not clear, just overlapping whispers like echoes of us from different moments, bleeding into one another. We reached the chamber again. The cube was still there, but now it had changed. It had opened. A seam split down the middle, revealing an interior of shifting light. Images formed and dissolved within. Faces, places, fragments of unknown histories. It showed me Earth, but not the Earth I remembered. This one was broken, floating in pieces, covered in black spirals, orbiting a different sun. I saw myself older, standing in a ruined city, whispering to a machine that looked just like the cube. And I was smiling. Nadia gasped. It's not a map, she said. It's a selection engine. It's picking which reality to keep and which to erase. I stepped closer. The cube pulsed, and I saw the hatch again. The round one buried behind the first arch. But this time, I remembered something. I'd been through it before. Not just a drone, not just in a dream. I had walked through that hatch. A long hallway, a chamber of mirrors, a spiral of selves, each slightly different. One missing an eye, one with a scar over the heart, one staring blankly as something unspeakable fed on his shadow. Each time I'd stepped through, I'd been judged. Each time I had failed. Nadia reached out and touched the cube. A burst of light knocked her backward. She landed hard, but when I helped her up, she was smiling. I remember now, she whispered. We didn't discover the labyrinth. It discovered us. Back at Artemis, 13, things are worse. Briggs is gone. Disintegrated. Literally. We found his clothes and gear in a pile, perfectly folded, resting on top of the desk in the comms bay. A single word carved into the metal console. Export. No blood. No trace. Just a mild radiation signature and the faint scent of burning ozone. Vickers is still muttering, now seated in a circle of those symbols. Nadia keeps writing. He stops whenever I enter the room, then resumes as soon as I leave. Nadia has locked herself in the lab. She says she's decoding the cube's memory pattern. It's not alien, she said through the intercom. It's familiar. It's based on human neurological templates. Templates of who? Of us. The signal's now constant, a low hum in the background of every frequency. And it's not broadcasting out. It's broadcasting in, to something below, feeding it, waking it. I confronted Nadia one last time. What is the labyrinth? She looked tired, older. Her voice was barely above a whisper. It's the first mirror ever made. To reflect what? She smiled faintly. To show the universe its own mistake. That was an hour ago. Now I sit here, finishing this entry. The lights have gone dim. The station power's failing, or being redirected. I can hear the hatch opening again. No alarms. Just a long, slow hiss. It wants me to come back. And this time, I think I will. Because something's changed. I don't remember Earth anymore. I don't remember my family. But I remember the feeling of walking into the chamber. Of touching the cube. Of being seen by something older than time. It knows me. And I think I was made to remember it. If I don't return, then burn this log. But if I do come back, don't trust that it's me. There's no more sunrise on this side of the moon. No shadows either. Only the constant, sourceless glow bleeding through the walls of Artemis. 13 like a memory leaking from a broken mind. Time is fractured. I no longer measure hours by the clock, only by the shifts in the silence. The hatches open again. It never resealed after last time. It waits, like a mouth left ajar in the dark, inhaling every stray thought I haven't secured behind the teeth of reason. I've locked the outer module, but I know it doesn't matter. Doors mean nothing to a place that doesn't follow geometry. Nadia is gone. She left sometime during my last waking stretch. I found her data pad, its screen flickering between static and a single phrase rendered in spiraling glyphs. The original has been remembered. Her quarters were empty. No signs of struggle. No signs of exit. But I found something that chilled me more than any corpse could have. A photograph. Black and white. Faded. Folded down the middle. A group of 5 people standing in front of Artemis 13. Smiling. It was us. But the date printed in the corner was 2059. We launched in 2133. And the suits, those weren't modern. They were old EVA models, obsolete since before I was born. The only clue scratched in handwriting on the back. Trial number 1, loop stabilized. Awaiting assimilation. The corridor walls hum now, constantly, like 1,000 tiny voices vibrating just beneath the surface of metal and bone. That's what I think Artemis 13 is now. Not just metal, bone. The labyrinth is growing into it, digesting it, maybe even converting it. I ran a spectrograph analysis on one of the lab's support beams. The molecular structure had altered. Organic elements where there shouldn't be any. Carbon latticework resembling neural tissue. It's not just mimicking us. It's becoming us. Or we're becoming it. I stopped trying to send transmissions back to Earth. Not because they failed, but because they started returning replies before I even finished sending them. Sometimes the replies came in my voice. One message played through the static in the middle of the night, my voice crackling through the intercom. They know you're awake. Come home. I remember sitting up in my bunk, drenched in cold sweat, staring at the empty hallway. And then I heard footsteps. Soft, bare, walking just outside my door. When I opened it, there was no one. But I could still hear them. Looping, getting closer. I think the labyrinth is folding inward now. Compressing realities. I caught my reflection in the viewport glass today, except it wasn't moving. Not with me. It was just watching. Head tilted, one eye glowing faintly red. I blinked. It didn't. I've stopped calling it a reflection. It's an echo, a version. Each of us must have left something behind in the structure. Each descent into the hatch, each brush against the cube. Every moment we stared too long into the shifting corridors, left impressions. Now the impressions are thick enough to walk, to speak, to smile. They're forming choices. I think that's what the labyrinth is. A choice engine. A place where all possible versions of us are rendered, tested, remembered, or erased. A massive, self-editing archive of consciousness. Not just alien, not just technological, fundamental. I found Vickers this morning, or a version of him, floating 3 inches above the floor in the central lab, humming to himself. His eyes were gone, empty sockets weeping golden liquid that evaporated midair. When I approached, he tilted his head at an impossible angle and whispered. We failed in sequence 6, but 7 still holds. I asked what that meant. He smiled, then split apart like mist. Gone. I don't think there are any of us left. Not the originals. Just memories acting like people. And me? I'm not even sure I'm still me. I replayed my logs from day 1. The first time I spoke into the recorder. The cadence of my voice. The rhythm of my words. They've shifted. Even the shape of my thoughts is off. There's a lag. Or a double. Like I'm trailing behind my own mind. The cube showed me something again today. I didn't touch it. It called to me. The air shimmered. The room elongated. And then I was there, inside the core again. Surrounded by figures frozen in time. Reyes, Briggs, Nadia, Vickers. All standing motionless in a circle, facing inward towards something too bright to see. I could hear them breathing. Then one by one they turned. They spoke in unison. You were the breach. And the light consumed them. I woke on the floor of the lab. The spiral etched into my palm. Burned there. As if someone had taken a brand of my skin while I slept. I've stopped asking why. There's only forward. Only the hatch. It waits still. Open. Dark. I think it leads down now. Or perhaps in. Maybe it always did. Maybe the only real question left is whether I was ever outside at all. I've decided to go. Not for answers. Not for escape. But because I think this version of me has reached its end. And the structure needs to know whether I understand. So I'm leaving this final log here. To the next who finds it. If there's a next. If you're reading this. I'm sorry. I hope you're better than me. I hope you're real. And if you're not. If you're just another version, waiting to be tested. Then remember this. The labyrinth does not kill. It chooses. And it never forgets its own. In transmission.